The 350 Rand Social Relief of Distress Grant, administered by the South African Social Security Agency, has been extended for a further 3 months. It will provide financial relief to those unemployed during lockdown. Recipients already registered on the system do not need to reapply. Busisiwe Memela is Sassa CEO and she joins us now. A very good evening to you, Ms. Memela, and thank you so much for speaking to us. So, let's just do a roundup of so far how much has been paid since May last year and to how many recipients?
The number of recipients that have applied for the grant since May account to 9.7 million people, and we've already paid the 16 billion to the range of clients that have applied. What's interesting is that 63% of the people that have applied are actually males. It has to do with the fact that if you're getting another grant, for example, if you're getting a child support grant, it would therefore mean that you would not qualify as a mother. Hence, the bulk is actually going towards males. And 14% of the people that applied are actually persons with disabilities. But in terms of the number of people that we've already paid, we've paid an average of 6.5 million people for each month, with a few that we haven't paid being those that have actually done the appeal process, because we're waiting to finalize our agreement with the bank so that we can ensure that once you've done an appeal, we can also ascertain as to whether you are not receiving any other income.
And it's interesting to hear you give us a breakdown of that, especially the gendered perspective. I'm curious as to then, if you're saying those who are already registered need not apply, that means that you can still apply for it. What would make you qualify?
The qualification criteria hasn't changed. What would make you qualify is, one, you have to be a South African with a South African ID, because we've noted in a number of instances when we've already processed the application and the person goes to the post office to go and withdraw money, but they want to go with a birth certificate, you need to have an ID for you to be able to qualify. The other qualification criteria is that you need to ensure that as you apply, you can indicate it therefore presupposes that you're not getting any other grant from any other source within the state. You should not be getting a grant from Sassa, nor should you be getting a grant from UIF, or even those people that are actually in the sports field. You should not be getting a grant from the sports, and neither should you be getting the Spaza Shop grant or a TESS grant. So all those grants that were put in place for COVID-19, you should not be accessing any of those grants for you to be able to qualify.
We'll talk about the impact in just a moment, but I want to understand, and obviously there is a rationale for extending the grant for another 3 months. But given the fact that there are fears that there could be a third wave, is there perhaps a possibility that it can be extended again?
We always work with what we've got, and we are, as you may be aware that even now, what happened was when January hit, what we did, we put a soft lock on the applications so that people could not apply. But as soon as the president had made the announcement, we then removed the soft lock so that people that want to apply that are new clients can also have access to the system and be able to apply. What we believe we need to do is to make sure that we also are agile in terms of this particular process, because we don't know as to whether it will be extended beyond the 3 months that the president has currently decided on or not. So we have to make sure that we're flexible enough in terms of our systems that if it's extended, we should still be able to do that. The key is for people to please, so that we don't find ourselves in a situation that we have the kind of queues that we have again at the post office. We'll continue to plead, as we've been pleading for the past 9 months, to people to please make sure that they've got their own bank accounts, so that we should rather pay in your own bank account rather than you to go and queue at the post office, even though we're looking at other modalities together with the post office in terms of how we can make it easier, especially now that we're talking about the third wave, to ensure that people are not encountering having to join long queues for them to be able to access their money. So we're looking at other alternatives together with the post office and the banks to see what can be done.
Are you looking at other alternatives with regards to policy design? Obviously, a little goes a long way, but I'd like to hear from you. You know, nobody could have anticipated the great loss of non-grant income in many households. Nobody could have anticipated that a lot of households are now child-headed. You spoke about the fact that it's men that are applying for the grants, but it's the women who actually are the head of these households who, you know, themselves have lost job opportunities. Are you reconsidering redesigning this policy and extending it to... Go ahead.
I think government, as you may be aware, we are an implementing agency of DSD, and DSD continues to look at what are the things that we need to change, not only in relation to SRD, but in relation to all our policies, because we need to make sure that the people that are most vulnerable, which is women in many instances, particularly as we say that the women are the ones that get affected and bear the brunt in terms of having to take care of the children, but not only in terms of their own children. In some instances, you find that there's been losses in relation to family members. And in many instances, the people that bear the brunt as extended family members are normally women. So there's quite a range of other policies that are being looked at, even in terms of how do we support going forward the children that are staying with extended family members to make sure that they continue to be supported.
And I understand that you're the implementing agency, but you are a very important stakeholder. And from what you've seen, what you've experienced, what would you recommend if given the opportunity to say, of immediate priority, can we please just change this?
I think that the one opportunity that we have as a country is to look at, over and above the fact that the women get a child support grant, because that is towards the child. It's not towards the mother. But because the mother is now already receiving the 440, which is the child support grant, it therefore takes them out of the system. And I think the opportunity that we have is to look at what else can we do for the mothers. Because, for example, when we started this program, the mothers as caregivers received 500 rands over and above the 440 that they receive for the child. And for us, we continue to engage with National Treasury together with DSD to see as to what else is it that can be done for mothers who normally are the caregivers and that don't actually have the benefit.
Thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciated your insights. The CEO of Sassa, Busisiwe, Memela, it is our question of the day. You at home, tell us what you think about the extension of this grant, and perhaps you are a grant recipient. Tell us, what does it help you do? Where can an improvement be made? Because tough times are indeed ahead, and as much input as possible from those who are receiving it would be appreciated, I think, for all of us to understand, but by government as well.